Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michael, this is PokeOz, and today we are talking about this topic. And the topic is, has Pokemon card investing permanently changed? Has it changed forever? Because it's been a pretty crazy ride over the last 12 months, hasn't it? Now, what's really interesting is something I would love to know. My viewers that watch, 97% male and 3% female, I would love to know how long you've been in the hobby for, particularly in the investing space. Are you new, like you've been here 3 to 6 months? Have you been here 9+ months? Have you been here the last 2 years? Is it something you picked up at the start of COVID? Are we talking, XY evolutions or a set like that in XY era that brought you back into the hobby? Have you just dabbled in and out of the hobby forever? Interesting to know, because it would be really interesting to see how many people have been into this hobby in literally the last 3 to 6 months, while it's just been on a massive crazy ride. Now, this is one of those videos I'm going to premise with the fact that you don't need to watch it. There's going to be no graphics up on the screen at all. It's going to be a podcast style video, so it's one where you can just put the headphones in while you're going for a walk or at the gym, chuck it on in the car while you're going for a bit of a drive, put it on the TV while you're doing some housework at home, whatever it might be. This is just a conversational podcast style video. Look, has Pokemon investing changed forever? What we're going to discuss essentially is exactly that topic. The last 12 months have been crazy with supply and demand, and that's really what we've seen over the last 12 months. That's what this whole video is premised off. And I've done videos just looking at the analytics of supply and demand and the fundamentals behind it. That's not what this is about. This is about how much it's changed, where we're going in the future, and where I essentially see things. Is it in a good place? Is it in a bad place? What this video certainly is not, and I'll also premise it on that, it is not a complaint video. I'm not here with the cloak and dagger out to get anyone. I'm not complaining about the place of the hobby. It is literally just a discussion about it at the moment. So please don't confuse some of the points that I'll bring up with any complaining. There's no complaints from me whatsoever. I'm just happy enjoying the ride. It's a super fun investment. If you look at it from down above, your investment portfolio, I always say to put 5%. Perhaps I'm going to branch out to 10% of the portfolio soon, but that's where I see it. Of course, today's video is sponsored by the Collector app. There'll be a link in the description to download it. It is such a cool app, very easy to use to put in all your sealed and singles collection. It would be awesome if people signed up as a pro member, because as a pro member, you unlock heaps of benefits, as well as going into the draw to win massive prizes. And on a positive there are now set analytics, so you can look at total set value of any given Pokemon card set, which is really important to the future investability of it. So that's a new bonus there. Right, let's just jump straight into this topic. Now, the reason I asked that question at the start of this video, how long have you been in this hobby for? I think that's a really important one to go, because I just want to rewind back 5 years. At the start of COVID, for argument's sake, we started to see the similar supply-demand issues we're seeing at the moment. And that is, think about it right now. Go online to any store and buy yourself a reasonably priced booster box. It's just not possible. It's just not. In fact, it's worse than what it was at the height of COVID. In fact, way worse. They just don't exist. Sometimes you can get lucky and you have a good brick and mortar, for argument's sake, and you might have a good relationship with your brick and mortar, your local store, and they sell booster boxes at a reasonable price. Why? Because Pokemon's not the only thing they do. Maybe they've got multiple TCGs, multiple income sources, and that's just the retail price they'll put on a booster box. I'm extremely lucky where I can pick up from my local LGS some reasonably priced booster boxes. There are limits at the moment, because whatever orders they're putting in, for whether it's 40 cases or whatever, they're lucky to get 10-20% of what the orders they're putting in. It's so hard to get allocated stock from distributors. It's just everyone's fighting for it, and we'll get into that. But rewinding the clock back 5 years, at the start of COVID, things got pretty wild. There was massive supply-demand issues like we're seeing at the moment. And then on top of that, we got this massive gut punch not long after that with a real positive, which is some phenomenal Pokemon card sets. It really started with Evolving Skies. It continued on a little bit with Brilliant Stars and an alternate art Charizard and the return of the Trainer Gallery. It came as well with 25th anniversary. And when this real golden patch, Lost Origin, but then it died off a little bit. Then we got hit with Crown Zenith, which was a phenomenal Pokemon card set. And then the new era come out, which is where we start from now, which is Scarlet and Violet, silver borders, changes to rarities, new illustration rares, special illustration rares. And look, base sets have typically been quite weak, and I liked what they tried to do with Scarlet and Violet to make it a little bit better. And it is probably the best base set we've seen in quite some time, but it's still not, you know, a stellar Pokemon card set, is it? It'll perform pretty well because it's a base set and it's a new era and it introduced some new things to the Pokemon TCG, and, you know, that'll have some sort of historical importance down the line. But overall, it's not a fantastic Pokemon card set. And what happened is we got hit with that. Then Paldea Evolve come out and people go, okay, the illustration rares are really starting to pop off. But keep in mind, Magikarp, for argument's sake, was an $18 raw card when this set first came out. It was actually the waifu cards, the Ionos, that were the ones that were commanding strong value when this set first came out. And they're not even in the top 3 anymore. So that's how people's perception can change over time when it comes to Pokemon cards and Pokemon card sets. And that's a topic for a whole nother video, but keep that in the back of your mind. Now, with all that, people felt like we kept getting lackluster set after lackluster set. And maybe not that. Like, people appreciated Paldea Evolve when it first came out, but they still felt like a little bit more could happen. Like, where was the special illustration rare Gyarados, for argument's sake? You know, give Shinji Kanda the license to do the Gyarados as well as the Magikarp. Imagine how much that set would be popping off right now if that was the case. Imagine a special illustration rare Gyarados from Shinji Kanda on top of that Magikarp. I've mentioned that in a few videos lately, but my point remains. A few people felt there was a few tricks being missed. Like, it's good, it's great, this artwork is phenomenal, but things could just be a little bit better from a collectability point of view. And I get that's not what the whole TCG is about. It's not just about collecting them, which therefore turns into the investment, because the investment is solely based off, you know, the collectability of the sealed product and the collectability of the cards that come inside it and the value thereof. But yeah, I get it. There's, you know, there's a playability, there's a game side to it. But what happened through all that is the popularity sort of died off a little bit. And it did. You know, rewind back to June last year, or probably May last year here in Australia, most booster boxes, we're talking base, Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames, Paradox Rift, Temporal Forces, they were all on flash sale online on multiple Australian websites for like $159. And if you do the conversion there, because most of the viewers here are US, that's like $100 US. That is cheap. Fast forward to now, and we have a completely different scenario. And I think it really started with Stellar Crown. We had this awkward gap, it felt, because you know what it feels like? Pokemon card sets just keep getting released and released and released and released and released, and it's like this snowball effect of just multiple Pokemon card sets coming out really, really quickly. We felt like we had this gap before Stellar Crown came out. We had this awkward release of Shrouded Fable where it didn't really hit, and you know that wasn't really important for people to pick up product. People were waiting for that next booster box, and then it took a while, it felt, for Stellar Crown to come out. And this is where pre-orders really started to ramp up. It was like the timing was just a little bit off. The timing with Shrouded Fable release was off, and then the lag to getting another booster box where people could really chase cards, because people felt like they didn't really have anything to chase inside Shrouded Fable. That's why I think Stellar Crown was the start to this snowball. And look, it hasn't stopped since there. And I think we have the perfect storm. If we go through a lot of the scenarios that are happening, which we haven't seen before, is just that. That's where it started, this lag between having a set where we could chase Pokemon cards. It's almost like, and I hate to say it, it's like that gambling effect, isn't it? You know, when everyone knows someone that's addicted to something, and let's just talk gambling because I don't want to talk any other addictions. Talk gambling, right? Because that's essentially what it is for adults in some sense when it comes to Pokemon cards. You're chasing that thrill of getting a chase card. You might open 25 packs and get nothing. Then you open the 26th and you get a nice hit. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, let's keep going. That's the whole idea behind it. But you take away a gambler's ability to gamble, and what do? They start getting really itchy feet to want to gamble again. And that's what it was like with Pokemon, to put a bit of an analogy behind it. People seem to want to get straight back into Stellar Crown because they just, where's that thrill? Where's that thrill of the rush? And it sort of hadn't stopped from there. So that was the snowball that started it. And then the points that follow are pretty evident. I think there's so many things that come into play here, and I don't want to list them all or go over them all, but talk about a few factors really quickly. One was this insatiable rise of things like Rip and Ship, where not only were people gambling by buying packs themselves, they were joining this online community space like a Rip and Ship to open packs and have that fun community aspect where someone's calling out their name and opening packs for them and sending them off the chase cards. there's gambling on top of that, there's spinning wheels, there's noises, there's lights, there's sounds. It almost feels like the pokies, doesn't it? It's crazy. Like, that was one part. Not only that, it feels like a lot of people wanted to cash in on Pokemon, as in they've opened online stores, they have opened rip and ships like I've mentioned before, they've opened new brick and mortars, and it's like, that's why I feel like so many places aren't getting their standard allocation, because there's more to go amongst. There's more people fighting for that product. That's one of the biggest things. Now, the other side of it, keep in mind just how many cards are getting graded. Like, this grading play for Scarlet and Violet based on how hard it was to gem cards in comparison to Sword and Shield, that's just making people want to rip them open or buy singles and send them off to get graded. There's so many factors that come into play here. And like that gut punch that Sword and Shield gave us, everyone was hanging out for this next Evolving Skies. And it did sort of come to a degree. That gut punch did come sort of after Stellar Crown, when we got, essentially a nice run of Pokemon card sets. Love it or hate it, think it's good or bad. Personally, I think it's a quite strong Pokemon card set. Surging Sparks come out. And Surging Sparks gave us what we were chasing. It gave us this multi-tiered chase when it came to Pokemon cards. Not only a Pokemon card set, not only do we have the main chase Pikachu, again, love it or hate it, but it's a rainbow Pikachu and it's not easy to pull. It's like a 1 in 1,000 packs. We got other multiple chase cards inside there. It wasn't just like one-hit wonders. It wasn't just, one $100 card and the rest $10 cards. We could pull multiple $100 cards from Surging Sparks when it first came out. So that was, again, a caveat to this snowball. Then comes Prismatic Evolution. And that's when we start seeing packs go to ridiculous prices. The individual packs of Prismatic Evolutions going for like $18 or $20, and it's like, whoa. We got this introduction of things like God packs, which just adds this additional layer of gambling. I don't know how many packs you'd need to open. Maybe it's 1 in 10,000 packs, maybe it's 1 in 20,000 packs, doesn't matter. The fact that we got English God packs, the fact that we got English Master Balls, it was all just adding fuel onto this already strongly burning fire. Coupled with the fact that we knew we were getting something like Destined Rivals, a Team Rocket set on the horizon, and it just doesn't stop, does it? All of those things, rip and shipping, online stores fighting for stock, the grading plays, the investor bros, as we like to call ourselves, I guess, to a degree. I don't know if I really put myself in that basket. Perhaps I do. I don't actually think about it too much. I don't like putting myself in any one basket. I'm just here to enjoy the ride and collect sealed product and watch it go up and try and make good choices and try and pass on good advice to you guys and girls that are watching. But all of that, investors selling to investors, people scalping to make quick money off the product. There's so many things that come into play, and we're left with this perfect storm of the scenario that we're in. And this is where we circle all the way back to the start of this video, is that, has Pokemon card investing changed forever? Because of all those scenarios, what essentially has happened is it's impossible to buy cheap Pokemon cards. So when you could buy a booster box for $100 for argument's sake, and let's say it takes 18 months or 2 years to become a $200 box. You have doubled your money in that space. If our new entry point to buying into booster boxes is like $200, of course, to get the same double of our money, we've got to get that booster box to $400. Like, it's pretty simple maths when it comes there. So there's a few things that we need to accept there. Is the acceptance just that Pokemon card booster boxes have gone to a new price and that's where it's going to sit from now on? I mean, my local LGS, literally in the space of a month, he said his distribution has jumped up astronomically. So no longer can he sell booster boxes for 210 Australian dollars. They've gone up to 250 Australian dollars, which is fine. That hovers around, it's probably jumped from 150 US to 175 US, for argument's sake, to convert that over, which is fine. Like, I'm completely okay with those prices in this market. It doesn't faze me. I think they're perfectly fine. But what we're getting at is, because of this massive supply and demand, is this the new normal? Do we need to accept that this is where Pokemon investing sits at the moment? And the fact is, we're not going to be able to buy in at $100 booster boxes anymore and expect them to go to $200 or $300 really quickly. Our new buy-in price, if we're lucky, is $200. And look at the prices of so many Scarlet and Violet booster boxes. It absolutely baffles me. It baffles me that Journey Together and Stellar Crown are above $200 US. It baffles me that Obsidian Flames is over $200 US when the top chase card is a $50 chase card. It baffles me that, you know, Twilight Masquerade is nudging $300 US for a set that feels like it only came out, you know, 12 to 18 months ago. It's just insane prices. It's just where we're at, isn't it? And now, what's going to change that? And the answer is we're going to probably need some bad sets for that to change. Or the other side is, I think a lot of the money that's driving into the hobby at the moment, we don't need people to keep scalping. We literally just need some of those people that are, you know, scalping or buying product with the intention to sell it to exit the hobby. Like literally maybe if 20 or 30% of those people exited the hobby, I think things would return to some sort of normality relatively quickly. And that's the conundrum, isn't it? Because if that happens, and that's what I think people are worried about, they're worried about, do I buy cases of Destined Rivals at the current prices? Do I buy cases of Surging Sparks at the current prices? Or booster boxes? Or elite trainer boxes? Whatever it might be. Because everyone has this fear of what could happen in the future. And what could happen in the future is, well, if so many people exit the hobby because there's not quick money in it anymore, does that mean booster boxes are going to plummet in price really quickly? And look, that's an unknown question. Like, we don't know. I get people's thought process around that because I have similar thoughts. It's like, whew, you know, would we want to buy in at this price if it drops? And look, the answer to that is hedge your bets a little bit, isn't it, really? If this is the new Pokemon normal, well, this is just what we're going to have to accept. And the fact is, we might have to buy into this price. And if there is a massive shift, whether it's in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 18 months' time, and things do come down back in price a little bit more, well, that's where you can dollar cost average and buy in at the lower price. Because I can tell you now, a lot of these Pokemon card sets, they're strong Pokemon card sets. I know we're in different places with, you know, some cards, you know, nudging 20,000 PSA 10 copies like Charizard from 151, like Lugia from Silver Tempest. You know, we're not at that place where there's like 50 PSA 10 copies like we were in some of the XY sets or some of the black and white sets with secret rares. It's just, we're not in that place anymore. But that's not to say that these sealed products won't continue to rise in value. I'm so surprised of how well some of the Sword and Shield sets are going, but I'm more surprised on how well some of the Scarlet and Violet era sets are going. Like, it baffles me that something like a Twilight Masquerade is, you know, not far off, you know, the price of something like an Astral Radiance, which come out 2 years before it. And look, I know maybe Twilight Masquerade has a better chase card in that Greninja, but it just baffles me how close they are considering the age difference. Well, I think we've talked a fair bit about this Pokemon investing place at the moment and where it's at and where it could possibly go and what strategies we could put in place to improve that. I'm Michael, this is Pokeoz. Catch everyone next time.